HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com has thousands of audiobook titles to choose from, but it also offers a lot of other content. So head over to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth and sign up for the free trial and check out all the content. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. The Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to. And this is because of the guests. These are people who have expertise in particular areas of business, and they join me for a conversation where they share that expertise with all of you. Today's no different. My guest today is Vinnie Fisher. Vinnie is an entrepreneur and a best-selling author who has over 20 years of experience growing and scaling multiple eight-figure companies. His most recent mission is helping e-commerce, tech, and digital business owners improve their financial fluency and operate their accounting back office as a profit center. I love that phrase. Thanks so much for joining me today, Vinnie.
Diane, thanks for the kind introduction and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So I'm curious about this topic of financial fluency and what made you think of it?
I lived it. And so what made me think of it was, I had to solve a problem in my life. I every day wake up wanting more gross revenue. And what I realized in the process was I lacked just enough relationship to the language of business, which is finance in its terms. I was afraid of language that I didn't know or understand. So I avoided the bottom line or the profit margin. And so I had this massive leaky bucket in my organization. And as a result of that was my willful avoidance of being able to manage the profit margin of the company. It was because of what would look like my ignorance at the base level of what the chief of the company should have as it relates to financial fluency of the company.
Boy, I feel like you just told the story of almost every small business owner.
Yeah, I lived it. That's how I built this entire company. So I'm not in any position of the 4 core functions of an accounting department, be it the master bookkeeper, the data analyst, the controller, or the CFO. Those are the 4 primary functions of an operating department. I'm not any of those, but I've learned that, and thankfully have solved my own problem along the way of first off needing that active department in my company, in companies. Then also along the way, I got enough cocktail napkin intelligence around understanding it and embraced my role in the process.
Okay. I feel like that is a key aspect of this. So is the role of the owner to be doing the finances or to have fluency, to be knowledgeable about what needs to be done?
Definitely the role is not to be doing it, right? So our motto is time, money, and resources. Win back your time to be doing the things you should be doing. Spend a fraction of the cost you would otherwise do to staff that internally, and have a lot more resources than because of the expertise built for you already. And so inherently my role is to have enough intelligence, meaning understand like what cash flow differences from what a profit and loss statement is, and have information provided to me so that I can identify the core issues of the company that need to be addressed. So once something went on in my head that these problems in our business were an opportunity for me to fix them, I then would deploy the right talent and resources to do that. And what got off of me was needing to be the one to do it, but making sure I knew it needed to be done.
Yeah, right. Wow. Okay, talk to me about profit margin. What is like the average profit margin for small businesses, or is there one?
There is actually. And so if you look overall standard, the average profit margin across every company, when you take the median average of that, is 11%. What I think is a detailed answer that people would want is each industry, every one of us live within an industry. Each industry that you would identify in your business also has its own acceptable profit margin. Actually, what led to the basis of Fully Accountable, I was operating a large health supplement company that I built. We were profiting at 8%, just enough to be able to keep the doors open and invest every dollar back in growing the thing. Well, when the first basis of this company was formed, it was the light bulb moment of realizing it wasn't my gross revenue, it's what I keep in our pocket that matters. When that light bulb moment went on, I was introduced to the idea of the profit margin of the type of health supplement company I was running should have been profiting around 22%. Immediately, overnight, I realized we were losing 14%, not gaining 8% of margin. And so my goal became, how do I identify in the leaky bucket where I'm losing those 14 points of margin? So I would recommend everybody within your industry have a target. Have something which you can gauge against so you can see if you're above or below, because even being above that margin could speak to things like understaffed. Maybe there are things you haven't developed and deployed in process and improvement. You might need people. So that once you have that target, yay, I'd like to be above it. But that might also speak to holdbacks to scale as it leads to why you're growing the business. So that target helps in both directions.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because I think most small business owners focus on revenue and not on profit margin, and then wonder why they don't have any money.
Yeah, I mean, I lived on this what I consider ridiculous roller coaster of emotions throughout the initial phase of my career. So much so, I wrote a book about this, and I'd actually like to give this to all of our listeners because you're awesome and we love to give things away and it's no strings attached. But at fullyaccountable.com/accelerate your business, you can get not only the book I'm going to mention, but our other books and resources, how to do everything we do if you want to go do it yourself. And the book is False Profits. It's not the top line that pays you. And when I started to become and realize that as the chief leader of our organization, if I become the chief defender of profit margin, then I can have a much more mature relationship with the CFO, who ultimately should be every day waking up, figuring out ways to improve profit margin. But since I'm in it and leading it, I suddenly can deploy and activate people and resources to tackle that battle.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. I will definitely make sure that that link is also in the show notes. I think it's tremendous and really great for the listeners.
Yeah, there'll be all kinds of stuff in there, Diane. Like we give away the resources of how to go build this office for yourself. Before all the pandemic and everything, our number one objection was, oh, I'd like to have that in the building. Well, fast forward to now, that objection is gone because people aren't even in offices, right? And so we're dealing with the real issue about expertise and the use of your dollars. And so what I would say to any small organization, not just the back office or accounting function, as you grow as a business, outsourcing as a category is a critical element to the speed of growth of an organization. It's the early on move that an organization should use. Building an internal piece is a process improvement, not an immediate first reaction.
Ah, that's interesting. So, okay, I want to make sure I'm hearing that accurately. What I think I heard you say is that business owners should outsource like back office functions early on because it's the quickest way to getting them handled because those people already know how to do them, as opposed to trying to weave that into your business.
Yeah. Yep. And
Wow.
I think if people, other than, I really think it's hard for us as leaders. And I think this makes sense to me. And by the way, I wrote a book about this called The CEO's Mindset, which you'll also get as part of this. But there are 6 core functions of a company. And without breaking all those out, the one function that I think is tough to break away is the brain. And the brain, be it like the leader of the business, maybe even the COO, the people who are really its heartbeat, that's tough to outsource. But customer service, banking, finance, accounting, customer service as it relates to the deployment of the customer, maybe even a marketing agency by channel, all of those functions require expertise. And the fastest move for the brain is to actually outsource the body parts. If along the way you decide through growth and scale, you may want to consider investing in one of those categories internally, that would be your second move. And now with the advent of technology, that should be the move of the small and medium-sized business. Outsource first, insource second.
That's fascinating. Okay, so and you mentioned before about now after, well, since COVID, whatever, people are working from home, and so things have sort of changed. I'm curious how you feel about the working from home environment and the impact that's had on small business owners.
Yes, I love it. I mean, since the beginning of our business, we have run a hybrid model, and we call the people who work from home our homies. We really embrace culture, and that name came from one of our homies and it stuck. But the bigger point to be made there is, at a time where we looked kind of nuts and crazy for supporting a hybrid model. And now it's the norm. And I think what people are catching up to is learning out how to manage between both. And I think that as the marketplace matures into this category, I don't think we're ever going to go back to one or the other. I think there's going to be, I think large businesses in certain categories have been doing this for a long time, but now it's becoming this mainstream idea because it was forced on us. And so since it's been forced on us, I think you're going to see this next phase of process and improvement embrace a hybrid work culture. And that's why you're seeing like co-working space and this idea where you like kind of rent an office even inside of your own company, and this furloughing of some days in, some days out. All of that stuff kind of existed, and now companies are it exposed this idea that you can only have good people working in your building. Well, that's not true. And so I think we're going to see a massive uptick of hiring people who are the best and sitting in the right spot in your company, and that no longer dictates whether they're sitting in your building.
Yeah, it's going to be so, I mean, I think it's been so interesting, all these companies that didn't think that they could have people working from home, and then they're not given a choice. And so they figure out how to make it work. And here we are, it's working. And it just provides so much more flexibility for everybody.
It truly does. It's harder in some respects, but the harder part, honestly, is this habit of doing it one way versus another. And so you will come to find as a business, if you can embrace parts of hybrid, then even outsourcing makes more sense. And so, because then you're managing both, internally and externally. And so really what needs to be battled there is the habit of how you manage, not whether or not one's better than the other.
Ah, that's interesting. I like that a lot. And it really does point to outsourcing being more, more of a thing, more palatable. I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have thousands of titles to choose from, as well as podcasts, Audible originals, guided meditations, and more. One of my favorite audiobooks is Everyone Deserves a Great Manager by Scott Miller. For me, I love being able to listen to it anywhere and across my devices without losing my place. And I think you will too. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to explore the variety of audiobooks and programs for yourself. I'm curious about small businesses. It feels to me like a lot of small businesses position themselves poorly, and that they could reposition. But I guess I'm curious about, is all it takes is to figure out, make sure they have financial fluency, figure out how to, best handle all of those functions that aren't the ones that only they can do? Or are there other things you think small business owners can be doing, or at least exploring, to put themselves in a position where, maybe they get more opportunities for business?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, actually. And I think it speaks to even a bigger topic. I'm thankful that the way I just have conducted business and matured over time, my general inclination is to solve problems I have. And I would create a solution, and I'm a problem solution oriented person. And so it's led to most of my stuff created. Buried in there is, I think, a very critical component to the community. And it's this idea of a value proposition. So, you have to be able to be solving a problem. If you can solve it for yourself, great, but you got to be able to solve it for others. Now, here's what's interesting in this whole idea of a value proposition. One of the things about that is no one knows unless you amplify and promote what it is you do. And so lots of businesses will rely on this organic word of mouth referral thing. And then when they're on the rise, they got lots of work. They don't do any stealth promotion. When it's low, all of a sudden they're freaking out and cutting people because they didn't have any flow of lead flow coming in. And I'd say there's a natural progression in business. When you're a smaller business, when you're doing under 7 figures of annualized revenue, by the way, only 7% of all companies do over $1 million of annualized revenue. So the vast majority of companies are doing smaller. And when you look at service companies, the break is really between 150,000 on the small side to above 500,000 as they start to get bigger. So they can even look at their micro set when a business is smaller. And in the case of the clients we serve, under $1 million, we would say you have to work on getting an offer converting. You have a value proposition problem. When you're above $1 million, you have probably, by definition of revenue, solved a value proposition problem. And now you probably have a process, people, and profit problem. And you need to focus and change your gears as to what you're working on. So really, depending on the age and stage of your business and where you are in your cycle, you may actually have an offer / value proposition or a process problem.
That's fascinating. Okay. This may sound like a strange question, but how do they go about figuring out where the problem is?
Well, I always start with the generation of customers, right? So if I actually don't have a growing business in lead flow, then I have an offer problem. And so my offer may not be an irresistible offer. I may actually not be solving a problem that allows me to have more customers. I may actually not truly be offering value in the way I believe I am. So I need to innovate on that side of the business always, regardless of my size. So I always start there. But if you can look and take inventory of your business and your problems look operational and your looks like fulfillment and it looks like consistency and efficiency, then I would say you have a process and people problem. So as the mature leader, and again, I want to put a little bit of asterisks around that because I'm probably the most immature person in the building, but as a mature leader of the business, my job is to pay attention and look at that. And when I actually have a healthy perspective to my role as it relates to the company, then my job is to see what's really our issue. And those are readily identifiable. And so we live in the process improvement and people category. So stuff above $1 million. We improve how to double your profit margin. We don't help you create an irresistible offer. That's on you, the leader.
Okay.
Or another agency or an outsourcer. But I will tell you, this is where I say certain things are tough to outsource. I think when you look to an organization to outsource, they help you speed up, right? So if you want to do everything we do, you can do it.
Yeah.
But we help you go faster in an expertise and save money. If you want to be your own marketer or your own agency, you can do it. They just help you go faster. So there are certain categories that going faster isn't always the best move.
Yeah, right. Right. It does seem to take the ability to be self-aware and inquisitive, and be able to you said something before about that you have to be able to really look at the business and be able to identify where the problems are. And that feels to me like, the owner has to be able to acknowledge that there are problems, that something is not operating.
Yeah, and I think until you take more hits, I'm not here to say that if you don't take hits, you can't do it. But I would say the vast majority of businesses, as a leader takes more hits, they start to have the wherewithal to do that. Now, I will tell you, something more objective is the bigger problem. I think it's really hard to be able to look at your business when you're one of the core widgets of the business.
Yeah.
So if you are the reason it moves in every function of what you deliver and what you do, it's super hard to step away and look at you and it. So if the shadow is cast by you, it's going to be really hard to step away from that. And you're going to be on this roller coaster crazy train probably longer than a business that isn't built that way.
Yeah, I think that's right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, now, are there steps that a business owner should go through, or are there things they should look for when they are looking for firms to outsource to?
Yeah, so let's look at it like a checklist. Let's say
Okay.
we start with my offers converting, then we have revenue, and then we decide based on the industry we're at, like what's a small, medium, and large size version of the type of industry I'm at. Where am I in my current snapshot there? If I'm really small, then I probably need to make sure my resources are being spent at how to acquire customers profitably. Then, if I start to get a little larger within the category I'm in, at some point, the struggle of systems and process and operations and people start to kick in. You start to have maturity issues. One of the cadence problems I had in business is I wanted my 5th year right now, meaning I wanted my later version of maturity now because I thought that's what I needed, and it was out of cadence. So the first thing I do as a business owner, and what I would encourage anyone to do, is to honestly take a temperature of what size you are. And I like revenue as a component there as it relates to your industry. That's true of service companies, product companies. Start there. And then you say, wait a minute, do I need everyone always wants more customers. So everyone's going to say they want more customers. But is my problem my offer converting, or is my problem that I'm losing customers out the backside and I don't really know who I'm talking to? Do I really need to tighten up my audience? And so that's where I would start. And then for us, we say, if you're looking for process improvement, that's a growth item that I really think maturing businesses should pay attention to. If I'm still trying to meet my basic needs and have a customer base, it's probably too early to worry about that.
That's interesting. Wow, thanks for that. This is so interesting. And I think my last question is, are there pitfalls, outside of what you've mentioned about you may not be time yet, whatnot, but are there pitfalls when outsourcing, and are potential pitfalls? And are
there really are, Diane.
Okay.
And actually, so much so we recognize this, that as part of those free gifts in that page where you're going to get them, we provided an entire guide about how to effectively look for it and do it. That is outsourced as a category. So really digest that guide and go through it, because it's going to help you identify some of these landmines. And that's true of accounting and finance, fulfillment, customer service, agency. There are really some of those same landmines across each of those categories.
Got it. Okay. And does it also help explain like how to mitigate for it, to make sure that outside of not going with a particular company?
Yeah, we don't really pick on groups or particular things. I mean, we believe our only competition is ourselves in our mind, but so we believe in collaboration, not competition. But so yes, it does. And some red flags I would always be worried about is, I just spoke to a gentleman the other day who was looking to do a strategic partnership with us. They lived in the franchise world. Well, we just don't live there. And I said, I don't think we're going to be a good partner of yours. And he said, why? I said, because we don't spend time trying to be an expert there. There are other people. He's like, so you're not an expert in accounting? I'm like, yes, but we also are a subject matter expert in e-commerce and all things digital. I said, you really want someone who's a franchisee type accountant. He's like, oh. And so one of the big mistakes that always blows my mind is when someone's outsourcing, it's not looking for an outsource, in my instance, of an accounting expert. You want an accounting expert who has industry expertise, and it's going to really move the needle. So that's one of the obvious answers that I think people think, oh, I'll just hire an accounting expert. Well, I would love it if they also, because of today's ability, had the industry expertise of what it is I do.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. That is really incredible. Will you, and I so appreciate you spending time with us, Vinnie, will you remind the listeners how they can find you and the link that you mentioned where they can get your book and all those resources, please?
Yeah. And so if you want to follow any of the stuff we write about and post, you can check out our blog. You can also go to Vinnie Fisher at all the social handles. But if you want to get directly to us, you just go to fullyaccountable.com. If you want access to the resources, you just go to fullyaccountable.com/accelerate your business. And in there, we'll have all those resources we talked about. And we then finally, through all of this, closed down, and we created an email address, wecare@fullyaccountable.com, where we want to help you win at doubling your profit margin. And whether we're the right fit or someone else is, we want to help you do that for yourself and get there. And so go ahead and ask the question you have. And if we're not the right fit, we'll try our best to get you to the one who is.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you. This is some pretty great information for you. I'd also like to thank our sponsor. To get a free trial of audible.com, go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, and then make sure that you explore all of the audio content there, audiobooks and more. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
Whether you're buying a new car or used one, it's a big investment, which is why you should choose Pennzoil Platinum. It helps extend the life of your engine and protect it up to 15 years or 500,000 miles, whichever comes first, guaranteed. That's because Pennzoil's base oil is made from natural gas and 99.5% free from engine clogging impurities. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Enrollment required. Keep your receipts. Other conditions apply. See pennzoil.com/warranty for full details. Find it at Firestone Complete Auto Care.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Oh, that's a cheer we used to do in softball.
What? It's actually Geico's.
Whenever someone hit a triple, we would wave our bats and yell, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. But we never got to use it because we would only hit home runs. Annoying.
The phrase is from Geico because they help save people money.
Geico? Yeah, they were our team sponsor.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Are you tired of the same old productivity hacks? Have you read the top 20 books on effectiveness, and yet your workdays and email inbox still causing anxiety, burnout, and even depression? Ready to learn the latest in brain-based modalities, techniques, and technologies to optimize your success and well-being? Welcome to the Focus to Evolve podcast, where we'll illuminate your path to spacious productivity and balanced thriving. Each week, we dive into deeply insightful and immediately impactful methods to help you become highly effective while promoting health, profitability, and well-being. Say goodbye to the trance of busyness and hello to your highest potential. It's time to discover a new way of accelerating your mission, growth, and purpose. Join us on the Focus to Evolve podcast and get ready to live your most joyful, productive, and fulfilling life.